Welcome to Detroit's Darkest Times. We would like you to subscribe, hit the like and the notification bell. If you'd like to support the channel, the cash out is $FC313. The PayPal is DDT313. If you'd like to support the channel, go ahead and do so. Before we get started, I just want to say we appreciate everybody that's listening. All of the subscribers, let's get them likes up. Today's segment is going to be about my old clubhouse in Detroit City. And this is Detroit, Michigan, by the Detroit River, for those of you that's not aware. This building has a lot of history behind it. A lot of my history's there. And I just wanted to touch on past things I've done there. And it's just an all-around good place, interesting place. It's a must-see if you go visit Detroit, Michigan. It's the Detroit Renaissance Center. That being said, let's get into it. I started going down to the Renaissance Center as a very young man. And those of you that's been following me on my channel and listening to the audios and videos, I had told y'all about when I was a young man, I had a friend that was a partner of mine from Detroit City, but he was like in his 30s. And the way that took place is this guy's in his 30s, but he's mentally challenged. So he had the mind of, a 12, 13-year-old, but he was a grown individual. And the way I actually hooked up with this dude is my dad had some friends that was managers of apartment buildings in Detroit City. Well, this dude that I started running around with is my dad's friend's son. So that's how I got acquainted with him. And then he basically liked to do the same things we did because his mother had told me and also my family that he's a grown guy, but he just has a teenager mind, So that's how I ended up running around with him. He was a cool dude. He was very stocky, very strong. He looked, a lot of people would say he looked a little scary, like that. He didn't to me, but a lot of people, I have heard people say that about him. But anyways, I started running around with him, and a lot of my other friends ran around with him too. But I mostly hung around with him the most. But we used to run around all over Detroit City, whether it be on bicycles or on foot. We did a lot of walking back in the days too. And we hung around everywhere. But the Renaissance Center was the main hangout. And it was, like I said, it was my clubhouse. Some of my friends tell you the same thing. And but we had went down there, and at the Renaissance Center, there's a lot of things you can do there. And I had actually smoked my first cigarette at the Renaissance Center in Detroit, Michigan. I drank my first bottle of champagne at the Renaissance Center, Detroit, Michigan. I smoked my first cigar at the Renaissance Center of Detroit, Michigan. I drank my first mixed drink at the Renaissance Center of Detroit, Michigan, which was a vodka and orange juice. And this took place inside the Renaissance Center at the bar. At that time, they had a bar that moved around in a circle. It actually, the bar part was like in the middle, was stationary, but then where your seats and tables was like a big round, kind of like a merry-go-round, kind of like the floor was, and it had nice seats and tables and stuff like that, and it would just move around, very slow, where you could get the whole scenery of the surrounding of the bar. The way that happened, though, like I told you, the friend that I was running around with, he was a grown dude, and that's how I was able to do the things that I'd done. But now that I look back on it, it was kind of crazy. But this is all the things I've done. I've had my girlfriend down here at the Renaissance Center. I've had my first mixed drink at the Renaissance Center, and this was on the second floor at the movies. And we used to take, I call it 7 Crown liquor, but it's Seacrum 7. We used to take that in, we'd order us a Coke, we'd pour that in our Coke, and we'd drink that while we was watching a movie. So the Renaissance Center, when I said this in the past, not what I'm telling you now, but I have said that the Renaissance Center is my old clubhouse, which it is. But today I just felt like I would just say a lot of things that I'd done at the Renaissance Center, so you could get a better picture on what I'm talking about when I say it's my old clubhouse, But so we did the vodka and orange juice at the bar. We did 7 Crowns at the movie theater. And then the cigar smoking and the cigarette smoking, we did that. And the champagne drinking was an event where we was hanging out at the hotel entrance of the Renaissance Center. And we used to hang out there a lot outside the front entrance because a lot of the Cadillacs and Lincolns and limousines and all that would show up right there by the door and let people out. And they had a lot of beautiful women at that time come near. But anyways, one time we're there, we did this a lot. But one time we're there, and one of the guys that was with us, there was a whole group of us at this point. One of the guys that was with us spotted a bottle that was in a bag, and it was next to the staircasing of the hotel entrance, which is in like a cubby hole where there's a metal door at. And behind that metal door was a bar and restaurant. But anyways, he had spotted this bottle, and the tag on it was $109 on the top of it. It said 109. So, and it's in a bag, and he sees it, and he tells everybody, "Hey, there's a bag of which he thought was wine, and he said, "There's a bag over here, and it's not even been open." And so he said, "I'm gonna wait here, and if nobody gets it, I'm gonna get it and take it down by the river." So that's how that champagne thing took place. And who left that champagne there? Because we hung out there for a good hour, and nobody came to retrieve that bag. So it's almost like if somebody bought the champagne and just set it there for a particular reason. You know what I mean? Because nobody retrieved it. So, anyways, a friend of mine got the bottle, went behind the Renaissance Center. So we all, followed, went behind the Renaissance Center. Then the dude cracks it open, and that's how that champagne deal happened at the Renaissance Center. So I've just done a lot of things at the Renaissance Center, and for it to be my first cigarette, first cigar, first mixed drink, which was vodka and orange juice, and later became 7 Crowns at the movies also. And then my girl, I took her down there, stuff like that. So just all that, we just had a lot of good times there. And we used to roam around all over the place. They had a lot of seating area that you could just go sit down and just enjoy the scenery around you, and chop it up and stuff like that. Then we also used to get on the elevators, the hotel elevators, and we'd take them all the way up, to 70th floor and stuff like that. And at this time, they had speakers on the elevators, and then they would have cameras on the elevator. And I'm not certain if they had cameras, but I think they did, because they would know that we was on the elevator, and they would always come on the loudspeaker and say, "Push level 2 and please step off the elevator." And then we'd do that, and then there'd be 2 guards in suits, and they would just escort us out the front door. But we went there so many times and went in so many different entrances that they had at the Renaissance Center at the time. And it was open to the public. You could be in there and stuff like that, because they had the movie theater, they had an arcade, they had McDonald's, they had a store in there, they had a cigar store in there. It was just a lot of things to do. You could spend the whole day in there. It's like a mall. But we just had some good times down there, and I wanted to do a segment on that, and I'm gonna add some stuff in here. But this is just the things that I've done at the Detroit Renaissance Center as a young man. and that's why I call it my clubhouse. I just believe I've earned the right to call it my clubhouse with all the things I've done down there, and all the time I spent down there, and all the times I went down there. So that being said, I just wanted to put that out there. Then I want to add some to the story, which is something I became aware of, and I just want to share it with my audience. So, what we're going to do is we're going to say that this guy, Michael Yarborough, is a dude that was at the Renaissance Center when he was 18 years old. And then he went there to apply for a security guard job. And he goes into the front door. He asks the guard, "Where's the Queen America at?" It's a temporary service that was hiring to fill the positions at the Renaissance Center. And the guard tells him to go down the escalator or stairs and make a right. And it'll take you to the Queen America temporary service. Well, he goes down the stairs, he makes a left instead of a right. And obviously he got confused. I've done that many a times at hospitals or, big buildings or stuff like that. So it can happen. And then some people can get directions and not make one mistake on the directions. They just got it down pat for whatever reason. But anyways, he turns left instead of right, and he goes down, and then he runs into a door. And then it says, must have hard hat, steel-toed shoes, and safety glasses beyond this point. So while he's there, he read the sign, then he hears a guy yelling. And he hears a guy yelling for help. So at this time, Michael Yarborough is 18 years old. He just got out of high school. So, and it says employees only, And then he hears the guy hollering for help, so he knows he ain't supposed to go through that door, but he figures he's going to go help the guy out because he figures it's a construction worker that's got hurt and he needs some help. So anybody in their right mind would probably do the same thing if they wanted to help somebody. So he says he opens the door. There's a ramp. He goes down the ramp. Then he hears the guy yelling for help. He sees two guys carrying the guy by underneath his arms to a hole, which was like a round cylinder type hole. And then he says he sees a cement truck that's actually running. He sees a 1975 Mercury Marquis, maroon. And then he sees a jackhammer and a guy's running a jackhammer. A jackhammer construction worker. So then he sees them throw the guy in the hole. And at this time, he has no clue who this is. But they throw the guy in the hole, and then a cement truck starts spinning fast, and the concrete comes pouring out, and they just fill the hole up with concrete. And this Michael Yarborough guy is just an eyewitness and telling this story. So I just find it fascinating that it actually happened at my clubhouse. That's the reason I'm adding this in. So he says they throw the man in the hole. Concrete truck starts spinning fast. Concrete pours into the hole. Then he sees a guy walking up toward him, and the guy says, "Hey, you need to get out of here. You're going to be next." So he throws his hands up and he says, "Hey, you ain't going to have no problem with me. I'm out of here." So he ends up leaving. But he says when he walks about 10 or 15 feet away, he sees the guy coming at him. So he takes off running, and he runs out, and he runs to the nearest restroom. At this time, he gets up on a toilet and he closes the stall door. And then he's real nervous and scared. And he sees the man come into the bathroom. He can see his feet underneath the stall. And then the man turns and walks out. So he waits a little while, and then he comes out, and he don't see the man nowhere. But it would have been something if the man was standing outside the door waiting on him. That could have been a scary point right there, but that ain't what happened. Anyways, he came through the out, and they didn't see the man nowhere. So he takes off, and he goes to another doorway. Well, when he opens the door, he's right there. The door's right there by where the cement truck is and where the maroon car is, but the maroon car is gone. So he closed the door back because, and then he goes back in the building. So then he goes to another door trying to exit the building, and he opens the door, and then he sees the car going slow down the road. So then he gets scared. He runs back into the building. He goes to another restroom, gets back up on the toilet, closes the stall door, and then he just sits there for 10 minutes or something like that. And giving them, he don't know if them guys are looking for him or if they're just leaving. So he's giving them time. And then he decides he's going to, he got his courage up, and he's going to leave and go to his car. When he gets to his car, he has to look for his car because he knows it's in the parking lot, but he's just scared and nervous. So he's looking for his car. He finally finds his car. He goes back out to Inkster, where he came from, to go see about the job. And that was at his sister's house. He goes out there, talks to his sister, his brother, and his brother's wife, and says, "Hey, y'all ain't gonna believe what I seen at the Renaissance Center downtown." And then he tells them that he's seen some guys steal a man in a hole, and they covered him up with concrete. So he says he spends the night there, and the next day on channel 247, there's breaking news about this former Teamster president that's missing. And his name's Jimmy Hoffa. And then his sister and brother tells him he don't need to mention this to nobody because the guy Jimmy Hoffa's tied up with the mob, and they liable to kill him and his whole family. So this was the purpose of him not speaking out on it for so many years. But as years pass, he becomes a correction officer at a jail. He accumulates some friends that's in the Michigan State Police Department. Also, as years pass, he mentions it to a couple of his friends, And they basically tell him the same thing, that he shouldn't say anything about it because they're liable to find him floating in the Detroit River, you know. So he said he couldn't believe that his friends even said that because they was in law enforcement also, just like he was. But he said he left it alone until he actually retired. Well, I don't know if he left it alone until he retired, but when he did his TV interview about it, he was retired. Let's just put it that way, because I don't want to give y'all no false information. And this is an eyewitness that's seen what I'm telling you. So years later, he goes to the FBI Detroit and he tells them exactly what he's seen. And he says he made several visits to the office. He made several phone calls to the office. And at this time, when they was planning on doing digs where they was getting other information from other people, you know, saying Jimmy Hoffa's over here, Jimmy Hoffa's over there, Jimmy Hoffa's here. It was all false information. It was just to keep them away from where Jimmy Hoffa really was. But before they did the digs and Michael Yarborough got wind of it, he called the FBI Detroit and told them that, hey, y'all wasting y'all's time and resources, you know, because he's an eyewitness and he knows that they're just wasting their time by going to do these digs. But he says they go ahead and do the digs anyways, you know, and come up empty handed. So when they decide to check his story out, you know, we have no idea, but we're really close to it right now at this day and time, which is many years later. Things are starting to happen about it. But this guy was an eyewitness that actually seen what happened. And like I said, when he seen what happened, he didn't know who the guy was until the next day when they said it was on the news and this Jimmy Hoffa cat was missing. And then he said, that's the guy they threw in the hole, you know, because he seen it with his own eyes, you know. So then he said later the guys that was carrying Jimmy Hoffa and all the guys that he actually seen, he said he had, you know, been staying on top of the story and see if they did anything about it. He said he found a book in the library and had pictures in the book, a mobster book, and that's how he put a name to the face of the guys that pushed Jimmy Hoffa in the hole, and that's how he knew the names of the people on down the road. But he had, you know, turned his information in and stuff like that. And then the last thing that I know of that he did, a TV interview behind the Renaissance Center about Jimmy Hoffa, and this is Michael Yarborough, and telling his story. And he actually goes in the Renaissance Center and shows you exactly where Jimmy Hoffa's buried at. So, that being said, here at Detroit's Darkest Times, we hope that they act on this story. And, you know, if nothing else, go check the man's story out. He said he was an eyewitness, and, you know, you gotta, you know, you seem like you would check it out because he's an eyewitness versus all the information you got in the past was just from people trying to keep you away from the burial site. You know what I mean? And they did a good job by doing it because, you know, they fell for it, you know. But anyways, you know, he's, as far as I know, he's the only eyewitness. Then you got one ear witness, which is Jimmy Hoffa's old driver from back in the day. He wasn't Jimmy Hompa's driver when this all took place, but he was his driver from back in the day. And he's a part of all this Detroit Mafia stuff. Anyways, he says that one day they're having a meeting at the Omni Hotel. This is a Canadian cat that used to be the driver. They're having a meeting, a mobster meeting at the Omnia Hotel across from the Renaissance Center in Detroit, Michigan. And he says it lasts for about 3 days. But he said on the last day, they decided to go eat breakfast at the Renaissance Center. So they cross over the street to the Renaissance Center. And as they're crossing over, Tony Giacalone tells them, say good morning to Jimmy Hoffa, boys. And he's doing a live TV interview on this, what I'm exactly telling you. He's the one saying this in his own words. So that's why I say he's an ear witness, because he actually heard the mob boss of Detroit City, Tony Giacalone, say that Jimmy Hoffa was there as they was crossing the street. And he does a live interview about that, so you can look up that. That's Jimmy Hoffa's Canadian driver from back in the day. And so he did that. You know, years later, he did a TV interview and said what Tony told him as he was crossing over. Not just him, some other guys too. But, you know, and then you have another cat that's been going on Jimmy Hoffa's story for many years. And I do believe that I read somewhere that Jimmy Hoffa's son at the beginning was supporting this guy as far as like financially to pretty much, you know, investigate and try to find out what's going on. And this guy just keeps coming up. He's got a good story, but it's all dead end, you know what I mean? And I heard that years later, I think Jimmy Hoffa's son quit giving him money, you know. So then, but by that time, he's done been making money on interviews and books and, you know, just all kind of stuff. So, you know, but as soon as they do a dig or a concrete scan at the Renaissance